Hey, you guys. So today I want to talk about important money questions that you should be asking your significant other. So one of the most powerful wealth building tools, if you're in a relationship, is to get on the same page financially with your partner. So whether you're dating someone or it's just starting to get serious, maybe you're engaged or married, there are things that you should know about that person's habits, history, and even current beliefs around money. So I'm going to share 5 questions specifically for you guys that are dating, and then 5 different questions to talk to your spouse about. So this is going to help you really gauge whether you share the same values with this person and even what the next steps could look like. So once you get comfortable talking about money, the possibilities, they're endless. You guys can accomplish so much together financially, and that is a huge part of winning. But before we dive into that list of questions, I want to tell you about a game that my family and I have been loving recently, and that is Tapple. Tapple is such a fun game, you guys. We actually played it with a group of people here on my team at work, and we had so much fun. We laughed a lot. It's kind of competitive, so you kind of just see and what people come up with, the words they come up with in these categories. It is so great. So it's a really fun game, really easy to learn and understand. So if your kids can read and they know the first letter of a word, they can play, but it can be with friends, with family, with neighbors. It is such a great game. So make sure to check out Tapple at Walmart and enjoy those memories that are created. Okay, let's first start with those of you who are in a dating relationship. Now, obviously, I wouldn't recommend interrogating somebody about money on the first, second, or even third date. But once you're a few months in, you've kind of established that you're both very interested in each other. Maybe it's getting a little bit more serious. I think it is important to start talking about some practical, real life questions. So the first money question I would ask someone if you're dating is their thoughts on debt. How do they feel about debt? And I would want to know up front really their posture around this. Because if they have debt, are they actively trying to pay it off? Are they okay with it? Is that something they're just comfortable with and they're going to use it to fund their life? Just knowing these things is really important, because I think one of the best ways to build wealth and to have a lot of peace is when you don't have debt. And this is where the value systems can really clash. Now, I would not say to stop dating somebody if they have a lot of debt, okay? So listen, if they have student loan debt, you can't be like, oh my gosh, I can't love you. No. But I would want to know, hey, is this something that they want out of their life pretty, in an intense way? Like, yeah, like we want this out. Or is it even around the conversation of, okay, yeah, they have a credit card and they spend above their means. You're watching them and their money habits. It could be a red flag, because money fights and money problems are one of the leading causes of divorce in America. And so being able to be on the same page is huge. So when Winston and I started dating, he had a credit card. It had an eagle on it. I remember that. So he paid our first couple dates with that credit card. And as we started getting serious and he actually was learning about Ramsey. He didn't really know who Dave, my dad, was at all. And we started talking. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not comfortable with debt. I don't like debt. And he was like, okay, makes sense. He was so logical with it all. He was like, yeah, well, I have the money, because he was one of those that just paid it off every month. He was like, but I could see how that's uncomfortable. So yeah, I'll just use a debit card. So for us, we were young in college. So it wasn't like we were set in our ways for decades. Like some of you who maybe if you're dating someone and you're a little bit older, you could run into that issue. But overall, knowing where they align when it comes to debt, I think is important. The second money question I would ask is, what are your goals financially? Do you have goals? Are they thoughtfully planning their financial future? Are they managing money wisely? Is that a priority for them? If not, why? Maybe are they establishing some of those larger scale beliefs around delayed gratification, putting money away for retirement? They want to be a homeowner. Are they working towards something? And again, I don't want them obsessed with money, that every little thing they think about is money, but are they motivated in this area? Because I do find people that are more apathetic to money tend to be the ones that don't win as quickly or as intensely as if you're like, oh, no, I have goals around this and I'm being proactive. So that proactive stance is something that I think is important. So I would want to know, what are your thoughts around money and the future and goals, and if they're working towards any of those. The third money question I would ask in a dating relationship is, are you investing? So this is kind of going back to what we talked about earlier about those financial goals, but I always go back to Love is Blind with Shane and Natalie. And Natalie was like, she funds her 401k and she has retirement and she's saving. And he's like, yeah, I don't really believe in 401ks. She was like, what? So again, polar opposites. So talk about that. It's good to know. It's good to know because if you're thinking about, your future with this person, if it's gotten to that point in the relationship, you want to think, okay, not just short term, but long term. Like, are they like huge risk takers? That's maybe not great and going to put us in a bad situation. Or even, I would say on the other extreme, they're so boring and so scared they don't want to put any money in the market and they're like, just want a little savings account over here and that's all they're doing. And it's like, no. Like there's a good balance here. So again, I think it's important to know what their financial goals are for the future. And in order to make progress in this area, again, intentional teamwork has to be a factor. Being able to say, yes, together, if this relationship goes into marriage, we're going to be working towards our future and our retirement together, making sure you're on the same page. The fourth question I would ask someone that you're dating is, do you own a house? Do you rent a house? And again, you probably may know this already by this point in the conversation, but I think it's important to just know where they're at because homeownership is a really big deal. And I think that it's a really important part of your financial picture, but you also don't want to rush into it either because some people get a home before they're ready and it ends up being such a burden on them. They have too much house, so even their income is going so much to a mortgage, all of it. So it's just good to know kind of like where they're at and to even think about, what's your best housing option if you guys do go down the road and get married? Like, what does that look like? Because if one's a homeowner, one of you's renting, then you want to look at equity and all of it. It's just a good conversation to have. And I think it's just fascinating to know, hey, what's their living situation? So Winston and I, we were in college, got married right out of college. So we were renting. I was in a condo with 3 girls. He was in a nasty rental house with like 8 guys. It was disgusting. So we were not established in the real estate market, if you will, when we got married, but we moved to Nashville during actually the crash of everything. So we got our first house from a bank. It was the whole development went under. So it was a bank-owned property, which is just wild. So we kind of got in. I hate to say it to all of you looking for houses. We are the opposite of what you're experiencing now with housing. It was just wild. So for us, kind of lucked out, I guess, with the timing of that. All right, the fifth money question that you need to ask the person that you're dating is, how much do you make? I think that this is a pretty appropriate question if, again, the relationship is legitimate, to know what they make, what kind of income are they bringing in. And it's not that you're going to judge them one way or the other, but again, it's getting this whole financial picture. Now, I wouldn't ask this on the first date because you would be cray-cray and you probably wouldn't get a second date. But as you guys are talking about money, again, I think it's an important part of the equation just to know. Again, talking about income can be really awkward with friends or family, and depending on what relationship it is, may not be necessary to know. But if it's somebody that you're in a relationship with long-term, again, that you're going to see yourselves on the same page, it's good to know, especially if you're like really close to an engagement, because then you guys can really start planning out like wedding costs, even things that are going to be going on after the wedding, all of it. So those are a couple of questions just to ask, and I'd be curious if you guys had any more that you'd want to know with a significant other if you're dating. So leave a comment below. I always like to know what you guys think. All right, so the next set of questions is going to be for your spouse if you are already married, or we can even throw in future spouse if you are engaged. So one of the first money questions I would ask is, hey, what are your habits around giving? What kind of role does generosity play into your financial strategy? And I think it's great to know like what type of giver you are. For some people, they're way more planned. That's Winston. He just kind of wants to know where it's going, what's going on. I'm a little bit more spontaneous. And at times that can create tension of like, no, like, let's give here. And he's like, no, we already planned it, Rachel. Like, what are you doing? And so again, knowing, hey, how are you wired around giving is a really important question to ask. And you may already pick up on that if you're married, but if you haven't talked about it before, say it out loud and talk about it. And another great thing is to know, hey, what are you passionate about? Because that's what makes giving fun, when you give to something that you love. All right, the second money question is, if you don't have finances combined, why? This is the one I get hated on all the time when I tell couples to combine checking accounts if they're married. And if you hesitate in that or that scares you, find out why, because that's going to tell you a whole lot more about your relationship, about you personally, and even your spouse. than that, right? Combining accounts, it's the tactical side of it all. But when you actually dig in and understand, okay, what is going on underneath that, you actually get to know your spouse more in that. And hopefully the conclusion is that you guys can trust each other, see yourselves as a team, and combine your accounts. So that would be huge. All right, the third money question every married couple should be asking themselves is, what is our money tendencies that affect the way we spend money? So I would think, are you a spender? Are you a saver? You probably don't have to ask that. You probably already know. And listen, either side of that is fine. 100% okay if you're a natural spender or natural saver. But especially with the spending, I want to know what is motivating you to spend. And this is more of a question that I have to ask myself because it's just good to know, like, hey, what is that thing that you're getting from when it comes to spending money? Because I know I'm like, ooh, I get excited. I'm like, oh, I love it. But why? What is going on in me that causes me to spend? Or even Winston, his lack of spending at times. I'm like, what is that? The scarcity mentality that sometimes is really great and really wise. But also it's like, no, you can enjoy your life and have fun. But knowing those tendencies and why you do the things you do with money, especially when it comes to spending money, is really key. And everyone has these tendencies. But again, digging underneath those habits to know yourself, to know your spouse is a really connecting point. All right, the fourth money question that you need to ask is, what are your feelings around budgeting? So budgeting is one of these things, people either hate it, they love it, but understanding why we want to budget, what is budgeting, how do we want to budget, all of those questions need to be answered because your budget is your roadmap. Your budget is the thing that actually helps eliminate a lot of money stress and a lot of fighting because you guys sit down together and you agree on where your money's going. Your budget is a plan and you guys need to do it together. So understand, why does one spouse may not want to budget? The other one may love it. And some of that is okay. Just know that. I mean, Winston will forever love multiple Excel sheets and multiple things that he looks at. And I'm like, I just need one. I just need every dollar and I'm good. So my level of detail is way less than his. And that's okay. It doesn't make me wrong or bad, but it's good to know these tendencies again, to know your spouse even better. All right, the last money question is, what are your long-term financial goals? So knowing together a shared game plan when it comes to retirement and traveling and housing and cars and kids' college and all of it together is really key. Because when you look out and you say, hey, where we want to spend our money really shows us what we value in life. Like the things out there that we're shooting for says a lot about who we are as a family. And when you can come together and agree on that as one, it is huge. And if you have kids or hope to one day, then say like, hey, what do we want to do when it comes to them? How do we want to teach them how to handle money? What are boundaries we want to set around our kids so that they don't grow up to be brats and like actually have some level of dignity and work ethic? But also like if we have the means, are we going to be able to bless them on certain things? I mean, all of those conversations, they're fun to have just to be able to say, hey, where are we going and how do we do this together? So listen, money, it can be awkward, especially if you're not used to talking about it with someone that you love, but it is really important. It's an important piece of life that you need to establish, especially with your significant other. So whether you're dating or engaged or married, have these conversations. And if you're looking for a practical way to get started, I highly recommend doing a monthly budget. And Every Dollar is an app that my husband and I use every single day. Literally, I open it every single day and we've used it for years and it's wonderful. So make sure to try it out for a month and see what you think. And send this video to your significant other and let me know in the comments. Again, any more conversations or questions that are needed. It's good to know, you guys. Good to know. So remember to take control of your money and create a life you love.